I'd like to start my talk by talking about people. People have needs for information and communication, both business and social needs. And we largely achieve this goal by using the most marvelous invention of humans, which is language. For computers to be able to communicate easily with us, we need to build machines that understand human language. And this has been the goal for researchers in natural language processing for many, many years. For about 30 years, we have been focused on core natural language processing tasks, such as sentiment analysis, to understand whether the text is overall positive or negative. We've also been able to identify entities, to identify text, to identify names or addresses or countries from the text. This was possible by building syntactic models which aim to understand the grammatical structure of a sentence and linguistic principles. But these models are not effective. Grammatical rules that work for English were not often applicable for Japanese. And so these methods were largely expensive and not easily scalable. But in the last few years, this all changed. Instead of solving this problem from a linguistic lens, we started using neural networks and stochastic gradient descents. In 2018, we had a major breakthrough when we applied transformer models, and these have been able to understand human language in a much more sophisticated way. So much so that a Google engineer last year thought AI has finally become sentient. And I'm here to tell you that's not the case. Not so fast. These advanced language models suffer from some of the same issues as the past ones. Sometimes models spontaneously produce text that can be toxic or biased against specific race, age, or gender. In addition, these models can hallucinate and generate rude, disrespectful, or sometimes unreasonable texts that would make you want to leave the conversation. University of Washington shared the research on how often we see these issues. As you can see in the graph, at least 1 out of 100 attempts, model will generate a problematic sentence. Why is this happening, one might ask? To make the most sense of the world, these models require an enormous amount of data. The more, the better. The best large language models have been trained on data sets scraped from internet, which is largely unmoderated and reflects the biases of our society. And what we find is that at least 1 out of 50 documents used to train these models contain toxic content. And I worry that if left unchecked, this technology will learn how to influence human users by prompting and sometimes intentionally deceiving a target population. Or even worse, persuade a vulnerable demographic to act in a destructive and harmful way, and perhaps eventually grow capable of carrying out its own dangerous acts. What we want is language models to be helpful, harmless, and honest. They should help users solve their task. They shouldn't fabricate information or mislead the user. They should not cause physical or psychological harm. And therefore, I've spent my time at MIT working on Inclusively, where we're detecting bias and toxicity in various language models. We're able to address nuanced and subtle challenges of language by our deep technology stack. We have built domain-specific data sets that control for bias and sometimes injected anti-stereotypes in our data sets. We've trained a model focused on workplace communication to enable teams and organizations to communicate inclusively. Soon, we will all collaborate with machines in ways that we cannot even imagine. Most of us will augment our communication with AI, and we need to make sure language remains inclusive. Let's bring everyone in. Thank you.